The 1993 NHL entry draft, a fairly memorable NHL draft where we saw future Hall of Famers such as Chris Pronger and Paul Kariya get drafted and go on to have outstanding careers. But like any legitimate sports draft, some GMs would live to regret some of their draft decisions. Ottawa Senators general manager Randy Sexton would be one of those guys. Let me explain. The newly expanded Ottawa Senators would go on to have a horrible inaugural season where they'd finish the 1992-93 NHL campaign with a 10-70-4 record and finish dead last in the league. And for having such a terrible season, the Senators would be awarded with the first overall pick for the 1993 NHL entry draft. The obvious choice heading into the draft was Quebec native Alexandre Daigle, and the Ottawa Senators drafted him with their first overall pick, hoping to help the struggling Senators build. But prior to being drafted, forward Alexandre Daigle was putting up promising numbers with the Victoriaville Tigers of the QMJHL. That season with the Tigers, he scored 45 goals and put up 137 points throughout a 53-game campaign and was being compared to guys like Joe Sakic and Mario Lemieux. Not a big deal. Upon drafting Daigle first overall, the Senators would sign Daigle to a 5-year, $12.25 million deal. This was also during a time where ELCs and the salary cap didn't exist, so we were seeing stuff like this happen often. By no means did Daigle have a bad rookie season, but those 51 points spread across 84 games that he had put up that 1993-94 campaign would be his career high in the NHL for the remainder of his career. In 301 regular season games with the Sens, he would go on to score 74 goals and put up 98 assists for a combined total of 172 points and a plus-minus stat of minus 137, before being traded to the Philadelphia Flyers in 1998 for Pat Falloon, Vaclav Prospal, and his second-round pick. He wouldn't do much in Philadelphia, where he'd go on to put up 31 points in 68 games, then get traded in a 1-for-1 trade to the Edmonton Oilers for Andrei Kovalenko. Then later that same day get traded again to the Tampa Bay Lightning for Alexander Slivanov. He would later be traded to the Rangers in 1999, where they'd send him down to the AHL for the first time in his career. The next 2 seasons he'd spent in the AHL, he'd put up respectable numbers, averaging almost a point per game, where he'd make his way back up to the NHL, now playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, then spent another 2 seasons with the Minnesota Wild from 2003 to 2006, where he'd put up a decent 51 points in 78 games in the 2003-04 NHL season, then fall off again and get sent back down to the minors. From 2006 to 2010, he would make the move to Switzerland, playing in the Swiss A-League, now the National League, where he would go on to play the best hockey of his life and was putting up respectable numbers and notably won the Spengler Cup with HC Davos in the 2006-07 season. He would later retire from professional hockey in 2010 at the age of 35 years old. Today, Alexandre Daigle is regarded as one of, if not the biggest draft bust in NHL history. Struggling to keep consistent and be a competent player in the lineup, Daigle was never able to be that franchise forward or even that top 6 player that fans and teams wanted him to be. Is there any other athlete you would like me to review or talk about? If so, drop it down in the comments, and if you enjoy the content, make sure to follow so you don't miss.